YouTube channels abandoned for disturbing reasons.
Elliot Eastman was a 26-year-old man from Vermont, USA. He spent most of his early years in the tiny town of Heinsberg. Life there was calm and peaceful, but with a population of less than 600 residents, it was...
Honestly, I don't mind. Actually, no, I feel like that would be depressing. Would y'all be cool if there was only 600 people in your city? Nah. Let's say you get rejected by a girl. Bro, the likelihood that everybody gonna know in your city is hella high. You feel me? At least the benefit of being in, like, I don't know, LA is that if you talk to one girl, not everybody gonna know. News must spread around like rapid fire. That's not even mentioning how much people are adults. It's probably like half of this.
Also quite boring. Elliot wanted to do something more with his life. So, with his love for nature and exploration in mind, he saved up some money and traveled to the Philippines near the end of 2023. He wanted to slowly make his way through the entire...
Anyone ever been to the Philippines? I want to go to Thailand, bro. Not for that reason, because I know some of y'all are demented in your head and you're probably going to assume for that. No, I just heard everything is really cheap and there's good sites. That's literally it. Oh my goodness, bro.
Country and witness its beauty firsthand. But just a couple months into his trip, he met a local woman named Karisha Jayla. The two started dating and got married just a few months after that in July of
this Hercules ass outfit, bro. What you got going on? W cultural fit though.
2023. Then in January 2024, Elliot started posting videos on YouTube documenting his life in the Philippines with his wife. His videos were simple, without any over-the-top music or crazy editing effects, but they felt authentic and real, allowing him to amass a small but dedicated fan base. Though his content took a massive shift in May 2024 when he decided to move to the beachside village his wife was from in the Cebuco municipality. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before this spiraled into the worst decision he'd ever make. You see, Cebuco is part of what's known as the Red Zone in the Philippines. Put simply, this is the most dangerous section of the country, especially for foreigners. Armed robberies, kidnappings, and even murders are not uncommon in this region, with over...
Bro, I think I speak for all of us when I say if you're ever gonna travel to a location that is foreign to you, it could be in a third world country or a country that's impoverished. You gotta go with all your homies. I don't care what country it is. Go with your friends. You should not be traveling on your solo adventure. And I'll be honest with y'all, if I'm traveling, I need to bring other people with me. I'm the type of person, the reason why certain experiences in life feel good is because you have other people to talk it with. Imagine trying to enjoy a place and then you're like, wow, I had a great time, but I have no one to experience it with. That's lonely, bruh. Like, I want to feel some shit and be like, yo, bro, did you just see the type of shit we just did there? That's amazing. That's what fun is.
For 40 Westerners going missing there in just the last decade. However, Elliot was well aware of this fact, as evident from his channel's description, which read, "I'm Elliot Eastman. I am 26 years old and I came to the Philippines about a year and a half ago, where I met the love of my life deep in the mountains of the Red Zone of the Philippines. I will be showing you my date."
Yo, shout out to people that could find love in like third world countries or like just these foreign countries, because to some degree, I feel like if I can't relate with you, bro, you can't be the love of my life. I'm not saying that a language barrier is enough for me to be like, nah, but I'm just saying like, I need someone that I know, like we have shared experiences or like you understand my jokes. I don't think I could ever go to a random ass place and be like, yep, this is my wife right here.
Life as the first and only foreigner to have ever lived here in Cebuco for a long period of time. He mentioned the danger in some of his video titles as well, but despite the threat to his life, he still wanted to build a life in Cebuco. So he rented an apartment and even built his own grocery shop near the beach, all while documenting the entirety of his journey on YouTube. Now, there were times when he felt threatened and had to hide from some locals to avoid getting in serious trouble. But despite the somewhat dire circumstances, Elliot was enjoying his time in Cebuco and slowly building the life he wanted. However, just when things were starting to look up for Elliot, tragedy struck. The incident took place on the night of October 17th, 2024, when, after doing several short live streams throughout the day, Elliot went offline and sat for dinner with his wife and her parents. But then, a few minutes later, 4 men with guns barged into their home and started telling Elliot to go outside. These men were also wearing outfits similar to those of the Filipino police.
And that's another reason why I can't trust these foreign countries, is because any country that you could pay the officers to like low-key do things or like, you know, get away with, that's no country you want to be in. Like I be seeing in a lot of these foreign countries where people will just pay the officer, or like the officer will be like, oh, I'll let you go if you give me 20 bucks. Get away from those countries immediately, because obviously there is no form of law.
Likely in hopes of making Elliot more cooperative. Elliot, however, saw through their disguise and tried to run away. Unfortunately, that's when things went from bad to worse. One of them opened fire and ended up shooting Elliot twice, once in the leg and once in the abdomen. They then dragged him onto the speedboat they had docked near their home and sped off into the darkness. This was the last time anyone saw Elliot alive. By the time the police launched a search and rescue mission, the kidnapper's boat was nowhere to be found. The investigation then went on for nearly a month until the 12th of November. But when the police eventually located the kidnappers, they were forced into a shootout, resulting in 3 of the 4 culprits losing their lives. And while they did manage to arrest the last kidnapper, it was already too late. According to the kidnapper, Elliot succumbed to his injuries when he was on the speedboat.
Damn. Yo, R.I.P. Yo, I'm glad that they at least try to find him. Damn, okay, so all y'all were willing to die over robbing this one dude.
So the kidnappers simply threw his body overboard to hide the primary evidence of their crime. Unfortunately, the police were unable to locate his remains and pronounced him officially dead in December of 2024.
R.I.P.
However, one question still remained unanswered. Why? Why did these 4 criminals target Elliot? Well, the simplest explanation is also the most likely one. They just wanted to kidnap him for ransom.
That's my biggest fear for visiting one of these countries. Like, especially if you're someone notable. If you're notable, you have to move with security guards at all times. Because, let's be honest, they probably looked at him and they thought, oh, white American rich, blah, blah, blah. Let's get him a ransom, a lot of money.
Karisha even had a first-hand experience with this, as back in high school, one of her Canadian classmates was kidnapped and held for a ransom of $50,000 US. That said, there's also a second potential explanation that has to do with Elliot's side business. You see, while operating his grocery store, Elliot also started lending the locals money for 20% interest. I would never work in interest. Interest is something I just wouldn't do. I feel like if you don't have the money to buy something, please, for the love of God, don't do it. If you're using Klarna on pants, then that's useless, but try hard not to use interest, because that's one way people will try to profit on you. Loan Shark likely saw him as a competitor and sought to eliminate Elliot before he took away any more of his business. This would also explain why the intruders were so quick to open fire if they wanted to hold him for ransom. Regardless of their motive, the end result was the loss of a young man trying to make a life for himself with his wife in a foreign land. His YouTube channel now sits abandoned, with its many uploads remaining as proof as the life he once lived. Damn, did he leave any children behind? R.I.P. man, that's so eerie. I feel bad for his wife too. Wow. R.I.P. Benjamin Pardoon, known online as Warner the Goobermeister, was a comedian creator on YouTube who primarily focused on creating a genre of memes known as YouTube poops, which is a subgenre of online humor that revolves around taking clips from other shows, usually cartoons, and editing them to have a bizarre, often nonsensical tone. Alright, so basically brain rot before brain rot. What did he do to get people mad? Over time, Benjamin's channel had amassed over 8.7 million views, making him a well-known name in the YTP community. What do y'all think is the best form of edited memes? To me, it's low quality memes. Like the ones that feel very Android-like with those emojis. That gotta be the greatest version of memes, bro. But after his upload on December 21st, 2021, he suddenly vanished from the internet, leaving his fans wondering what could have happened. Unfortunately, the reason for his disappearance was far more tragic than simply getting bored and moving on from the channel, as most of his audience had assumed. Yo, my question is, how did this guy find out what happened to them? Like, the research done for this video gotta be crazy, because how are you finding this a random channel from 10 years ago, seeing these little clips and say, you know what happened to him? Let me do my research. Who's feeding him this information? The incident took place on the 27th of January 2022. Wait, this little kid was running it? When his older brother Chris tried to contact him many times but didn't hear back. Left with no other option, Chris called the police at around 8 p.m. to check on his parents and little brother. When the officers arrived at his house, the lights were on, but no one was answering the door. After repeated knocks, the officers knew something was off, so they decided to break in. But nothing could have prepared them for the horrific scene they saw behind that door. Inside, they found the bodies of Benjamin and his parents, all with visible gunshot wounds. However, what looked like a robbery gone wrong turned out to be far more tragic. Don't tell me he ended his parents' lives, bro. Don't tell me he ended his parents' lives. According to the investigation, both Benjamin and his mother Deborah were shot by his father that evening. Bro, I'll never understand when people take their pain out on others. I understand you're probably fighting your own demons, but that never gives you an excuse to be like, nah, my life is ass, everybody paying the price. RIP to the mother and the son. Whoever this lame ass dude is, no remorse for you, bro. Who, after committing the crime, decided to end things for himself as well. Do you think your son or your wife's life was gonna be worse without you? Why do you have to bring them down with you? Well, the news of this incident was a massive shock for Benjamin's viewers, as he'd never mentioned any family troubles before. Chris later set up a GoFundMe page in November of 2022, which not only allowed Benjamin's fans to support the only living member of his family, it also gave some insight into what might have happened. According to Chris, Benjamin was born in 2005 and was soon diagnosed with autism. This made it difficult for him to interact with people in person. Because of this, he was homeschooled, and at just 8 years old, he started uploading on YouTube, hoping.
So he was extremely young. Wow, bro. R.I.P. Wow.
To make friends and find a sense of community. Sadly, Benjamin's condition was far from the only challenge their family had to face. Deborah was also suffering from nerve damage after an accident, and the father, Gregory, had also gotten in a car accident in the past and could barely walk. On top of that, the family was also struggling with severe financial issues.
Damn! Yo, this family got a horrible luck. I'm like, how could it get any worse? And then this narrator saying, oh, and this happened, and this happened. And when they were 8, this happened. I'm like, wow.
Which could explain why Gregory felt the need to take such a drastic measure, seemingly—
No, that's bad though. That doesn't give you an excuse. You don't think to yourself, my wife's spine doesn't work. My son got some loose screws. Let me end both of them. You're not doing them a favor, bro. Because I'm pretty sure if they were to take life or death, they would want life.
Out of nowhere. As Chris puts it, my dad was a proud man. He was ashamed to ask or seek out help. Although Benjamin's content was somewhat niche, it left a big impact on those who came across it, with some even uploading new videos in his style to keep his memory alive.
R.I.P. man. R.I.P.
Harley Dilly was a YouTube channel run by a 14-year-old teenager from Ohio with the same name.
Damn, yo! Why are all these channels like run by young kids, man? It makes me feel even more sad.
He created the channel in 2013 to share his love of gaming, specifically the sports game Madden, with others.
Yo, I think I can speak for all of us. Them old FIFA 2K games, or just, video games in general, they were so goated back then, bruh. Yo, I remember 2K19, 2K20, FIFA 16. Bro, those were the days, bruh. These new sports games, they just don't hit no more. They improved the graphics and add a little bit more sweat drops. Gameplay still the same, barely changing anything and giving you the same crap that they gave you last year. But back then, those sports games were hungry.
He also uploaded vlogs on YouTube, where he talked about anything that was on his mind that day. But for Harley himself, these were more than just videos. They were one of the many forms of escape he had from his troubled life. You see, Harley suffered from oppositional defiant disorder and was also diagnosed with high-functioning autism. This resulted in him getting into heated arguments with his parents quite often and subsequently ending up in a worse situation. In one instance, he even posted a video talking about how he was locked out of the house after an argument with his mother, titled, "I'm Scared."
Hey guys, what's up? It is Harley Dilly. Probably one of my worst days in my life. I was at school and I was science test. I finished it and my computer says 1% battery left. So I get to the next class and I put it on charger as quick as possible, but it didn't charge. None of the computers would.
Oh, that's a terrible feeling. Bro, being on FaceTime, looking at your battery and just forgetting that you need to charge it and the phone just dies. Nah, I feel, bro.
Take a charge. So I took it back and I had to fill out a complaint, and that's one of the most expensive parts of the computer. And my mom said she's not paying anything. We argued for about a
Wait, I'm confident that the school shouldn't charge you for electronic fault that could be on their side. All it is a charger problem. Why would she pay? Why would anyone need to pay?
Then she snapped. She said she was gonna call the police, and she said she already did. And she locked me out of the house. So right now,
Bro, one of the biggest myths I used to believe is when parents said that they would call the cops on me. And my only crime that I was guilty of is using the phone for a little too long than I should. I don't know why, but yo, anytime my parents would threaten to call the cops, I would log in. In hindsight, if I knew back then, I would have been like, call them then.
I'm outside. Yep, the house is locked. It is 3:30. I haven't ate anything, and I still haven't even got to get my work done. My mom's gone. She won't answer the phone.
As a kid, did y'all know about CPS? I didn't. I feel like if I knew about them, I wouldn't have contacted them, but I probably would have been like, yo, lock in before I call them. That would have been my threat.
There were also allegations of some of his family members being physically aggressive to him. But despite all this, Harley was still a cheerful kid who wanted nothing more than to play Madden and grow his YouTube channel. Unfortunately, this ambition was tragically cut short on December 20th, 2019, when Harley went to school and never came back. The day had started off rough. Harley was still upset after arguing with his parents the night before, as they had refused to replace his broken smartphone. He also didn't want to go to school that day, but his mother Heather woke up early that day and, after some more arguing, convinced him to go. He left his house just before 7 a.m., but he was somehow absent from school and didn't return home that evening either. Harley had disappeared without a trace. Surprisingly, his family didn't report him missing until 11:50 p.m. on December 21st, nearly 43 hours after he vanished. Their explanation for the delay was simple. According to them, Harley had spent the night at friends' houses without telling them before, usually after an argument. They assumed this time was the same. However, they couldn't have been more wrong. Something that became increasingly clear as the police investigation.
If my child skips class entirely and he doesn't even show up, I am personally dropping off to school every day. Look, I understand being late to class, but if you're just ditching school, some parents, they're too forgiving of their child. I never even thought about ditching school. Not in my African household. I never even thought of that.
Dragged on for days without uncovering a single clue about his whereabouts. The only thing they found was this low-resolution picture of Harley going to school that was taken from a neighbor's security camera. And that was it. Eventually, many other organizations, including the FBI, joined the search as well. They also distributed his missing posters nationwide and offered an $18,000 reward, hoping to receive any information that could lead them in the right direction. Unfortunately, although they received numerous tips, none led to any significant progress in the case. That is until the 13th of January, over 23 days after Harley went missing, when the investigators made the big discovery.
What?
They were recanvassing the area immediately surrounding Harley's home when one of the investigators decided to check out the vacant house directly across from the Dilly residence. This was a summer home and was fully locked at the time. There was also no indications of anyone breaking into the home. However, the investigators had looked everywhere else to no avail. This was one of their last options. So they acquired the key to this home and started looking around. They didn't find anything on the ground floor, but as soon as they climbed the stairs, one of them noticed a maroon puffer jacket lying on the ground, the same jacket that Harley was wearing on the morning of his disappearance. As they got closer, they also noticed his glasses lying on the floor as well, but there were no signs of Harley anywhere. Both the glasses and the jacket had also collected plenty of dirt, indicating that they must have been there for a long time. While they were looking around, one of the investigators noticed the chimney vent above where his glasses and jacket were discovered. This sort of vent is used to connect traditional wood-burning heaters. Curious to see what was in it, he reached.
Oh, nah. Yo, RIP. Wow. I don't know what I was expecting. Climbing into a chimney, that gotta be the last way I thought he was gonna go out. RIP, man. See, that's what doesn't make sense to me. You are a whole ass mom, and you know your son is a high-functioning autistic child, and you're not gonna take him to school? Like, you're gonna assume everything is cool? I know she's probably blaming herself for this.
Into the hole, only for his hand to touch human hair on the other side. There was no doubt about it. That was Harley, stuck in the chimney. Officers quickly dismantled the wall, and sure enough, they found Harley's body inside, with his arms raised above his head. A later autopsy concluded that he likely passed away the day he went missing. His particular position at the time of discovery also helped investigators piece together what might have happened that day. As the story goes, Harley didn't want to go to school that day, so he decided to spend the time at the vacant home until the afternoon to make it seem like he went to school. But when he couldn't find a way in from the ground floor, he climbed onto the roof using the antenna tower beside the house.
Oh.
From there, he looked into the chimney and saw a relative.
No, okay. Yeah, he probably thought it was one of those chimneys that as you go down, there's gonna be an area where you could just like slip out because it's like one of those open chimneys instead of it being closed. RIP, man.
Relatively short drop and chose to climb down it to enter the house. However, what he failed to realize was that this chimney didn't lead to a spacious fireplace. Instead, it only connected to a couple of small vents for heater exhausts, leaving him stuck at the bottom. Due to the way he climbed down, his jacket was likely halfway removed already. So he pushed it through the vent to free up some space, and his glasses fell through as well. Sadly, there was nothing else he could do in that position. His chest was pressed tightly against the chimney's wall, making it impossible to breathe, resulting in him slowly succumbing to asphyxiation.
RIP, man.
Put simply, this was nothing more than a tragic accident.
And I feel like the way he's going out, like being in there for hours, he's probably screaming, nobody's saving him. I don't know whether he died due to asphyxiation or like being hungry, but RIP, man.
Now, given this conclusion, Harley's case should have ended there. However, some people, especially as YouTube viewers, weren't satisfied with the official report. Many of them believed that this wasn't an accident at all. Rumors started going around the internet that Harley's death was—
Do y'all think it was an accident? I think it was an accident, 100%. I don't think anyone decides, yo, the way I want to go out is by going through a chimney.
actually a murder committed by his own family. One of the first big points of contention was his jacket, since in one of the evidence images it could be seen hanging from the door. These critics claimed that this was proof of the whole story being a lie. Some also argued that the shoes he was wearing in his last picture didn't match the ones the investigators found on him. However, despite the skepticism, the police stuck with their initial report. As for the jacket issue, that turned out to be nothing more than the result of one of the inexperienced investigators mistakenly moving key evidence. That said, whatever the truth may be, it doesn't change the fact that—
Yeah, I mean, if the official investigators say that, then I highly doubt they're just trying to brush it off. If they said where the jacket was found, then I highly doubt the parents did anything.
the YouTube community lost a genuine and passionate creator.
R.I.P., man. R.I.P. Wow. Wow.
Nicholas Sonderegger was a 28-year-old YouTuber who loved two things in life: longboarding and dancing. He uploaded nearly 80 videos of himself doing both of these on his channel named Sunspeak, though his ultimate dream was to become a professional dancer. By 2017, he was living in San Diego with his friend Austin to try
San Diego? Wait. I'm from San Diego, man.
and make his dream come true. However, the two were completely broke and couldn't afford California's high rent prices.
And that is why my black ass moved to Texas. I'm sorry. Shout out to Cali. Cali is a cool place, but it's way too expensive there.
So, with no other option, the two decided to live in tents or random trailers they could find in the Salton Sea area. Salton Sea used to be a popular tourist destination at one point due to its status as an oasis in the middle of the desert. But the water and the surrounding area became extremely toxic over time, turning it into a complete ghost town. On the flip side, this also made living there essentially free, which is what Nick and Austin were after. But what neither of them knew at the time was that the true danger of Salton Sea had nothing to do with its toxic climate. This danger came face to face with the two on the night of September 9th, 2018 at around 2 a.m. They were asleep in their tent when suddenly they were jolted awake by an extremely loud scream coming from the tree line not far from their camp.
You know what? Shout out to people that actually go to people that scream. I can't. It's at nighttime and I hear someone screaming from a tree. I'm going the other way. I don't function like a horror movie. I'm the type of person, I hear danger, I run away from it. I hope you're good. I hope somebody saves you. I'm gonna call 911 in your favor. Me, on the other hand, I'm going the opposite way.
Fearing for their safety, they decided to just ignore it altogether and go back to sleep. Or that's at least what Austin thought. For some unknown reason, Nick later decided to go investigate the scream on his own after Austin had fallen back asleep. By the time Austin woke up the next morning, Nick was gone. He tried looking around for his longtime friend around town and discovered his flashlight lying on the ground just a block away from their tent. He immediately contacted the police and reported Nick as missing, who began looking for him almost immediately. But all they found was one of his boots, his pants, and his knife sleeve. His other boot, as well as his wallet and keys, were missing. More importantly, Nick himself was nowhere to be found. What made the situation even more bizarre was what happened days later. Austin returned to the same area he had already searched, but this time he found Nick's shirt and hat lying there, items that weren't there before. In other words, someone had likely placed them in that spot later. Sadly, the identity of this person was never uncovered, leaving Nick's case a complete mystery to this day.
Damn.
Nick's family has set up a website with all the information they have. They've also announced a $10,000 reward for any useful information. But despite these efforts, the case has remained cold. In fact, there are so few clues that I wasn't even able to find any solid theories either. Some have speculated that Austin might have killed Nick and hidden his body. However, the police investigation uncovered no evidence of foul play.
Does that scare any of y'all that people could actually get away with murder? Like, even in 2025, there's a slight chance that someone could just be successful with murder someone. At least now we have technology. Could y'all imagine murdering someone in like the 1800s? Nobody cared. 1900s, it's still gonna be easy to get away with murder. Now it's harder, but the fact that you could still get away with it is crazy.
There's still a chance that some unexpected discovery would crack this case wide open. But until then, Nick's disappearance remains an unsolved mystery, and his YouTube channel remains abandoned.
Wow. Anyways, YouTube, let me know which channel you thought was the most disturbing. Do y'all believe that the parents pushed that little kid out the basement? Make sure you guys join us on Twitch. Subscribe. Road to 1 million subs. We're close. Make sure you guys stay safe. All that good stuff. Join us on Twitch. Waxer for life. Love y'all. And peace.